Hello and welcome to this Google Web Designer video tutorial. I'm Owen Corso from Google and I'm going to walk you through adding custom events in GWD. This video will cover three types of events: exits, counters, and timers. I've already started a file with a logo and start and stop buttons. I will add an exit to the logo and use the buttons to start and stop a timer. I will add a counter to the start button to see how many times it is clicked. Part 1. Exits. Let's start by adding an exit. An exit is DoubleClick's solution for a click-through method. Under the Components accordion on the right-hand side of your navigation, select Tap Area, and click and drag that to your stage where you want the exit event to be fired. Next, I align the component instance to the stage where I would like to display, and then I scale the component by selecting the arrow tool and then ticking the Transform Control checkbox. Now I'll click on my tap area element and then navigate to the Properties accordion. I can adjust the position and size through this panel by specifying left and top positioning and width and height. I can also specify lots of other things here, but for now, since this is an invisible button, I'll just leave these as the default values. Now I'll give this component instance a name. Because you could have multiple tracking items, it's important to make sure that it is clearly named for the type of action the instance should be performing. I will name this Logo Exit in two places, the element ID and the component properties name. Next, I'll select the Events section and hit the plus button in order to assign my button an action. Under the plus button pop-up, you can see that there are multiple options. I want to make my tap area an exit button, so I'll go ahead and select my target as Logo Exit. Next, I'll assign it as a tap area and touch click. I'll select that since I want this to drive to a landing page on click. Next, on the Action panel, I expand the DoubleClick component accordion and choose Exit. In the Receiver panel, I select GWD Add and then fill in how I want this exit to display in reporting under Metrics ID. Now I'll fill in the URL I want this to drive to under URL. Make sure to include the HTTP protocol when you're defining this. This URL can always be changed once the ad is uploaded to Studio as well. Since this is an in-page ad, I do not need to check the Collapse on Exit checkbox. If it were, I would check it so the expanded panel would collapse when I click through to the site. Now I'll go ahead and hit Save. The tracking code is automatically added in for you based on what you're specifying, so there's no need to go through and edit the source code later. Part 2. Counters. Now we'll go through how to add a counter to your file. A counter lets you track any action in a creative. For example, how many times a user clicked a button or moused over an object. I've already created two more tap areas for my start and stop buttons, and I've given them names in the Properties panel. Now let's go to the Events panel and hit the plus button to assign an event to the start button. In the Events modal window, you can see there are multiple options. Since I want to make my tap area a counter, I'll go ahead and select my tap area instance, button start as my source. Next I'll select tap area, then touch click. In Action, click DoubleClick Component, and then Incremental Counter. Receiver is GWD Add. And in the Configuration panel, we enter the Metrics ID we want for tracking. Before I hit Save, for this example, I want to check Is Cumulative. When I check this box, it means the creative will track every time I click this button. When you uncheck it, the counter will only track once per impression. This option prevents a single user from clicking multiple times and skewing the metrics. If you want to see if something was interacted with, I suggest unchecking this box. If you want to see every click, then check it. Now we'll go ahead and hit Save. Again, all the code is automatically added in based on what we just did here. Part 3. Timers. Now let's add a timer to the file. Timer lets you measure the length of any action in a creative, for example, the amount of time a user plays a game. Let's click the plus button on the Events panel again to assign an event to my element. Select my Start button again, then tap area, touch click, DoubleClick component, and then start timer. Receiver is GWD again, which brings us to the metrics ID. I'll fill in how I want my timer to track under metrics ID, making sure that I remember this metric. I will need to put this same metric name into the event panel when we assign our actions to our stop timer. Go ahead and hit save. Next, I will repeat those steps for my stop timer. Select my button stop this time, then tap area, touch click, double click component, and then stop timer. Receiver is GWD add again, and now we enter the exact same metric ID as we did in the start timer metric ID. Let's review. We have an exit on the logo, a counter cumulative counter on the start button, a timer that starts and stops depending on which button I press. I can do a cursory test run of the ad by going to preview and selecting my browser of choice. I see the exit works and the start and stop timer, that I should be counting time and the number of times I click start. Once I'm done testing and editing my creative, I'll select Publish and upload to Studio where I can see all the timers and counters in action. And that's how you add a timer into your creative.